So elements of body language includes facial expressions, eye contact, gestures, posture, movement and touch. Paralanguage is also one more aspect of non-verbal communication, which includes or it refers to the non-verbal elements of speech that accompany verbal communication. Components of paralanguage, whereas components of paralanguage includes tone of voice, pitch, speaking speed, volume and pauses and silence. Hello everyone, I am Nikilavati S, Faculty of Commerce, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence, Mysuru. I welcome you all for the sessions on business communication. So let us start with the fourth chapter. It's all about non-verbal communication. So here it's all about the non-verbal elements that play a significant role and support the verbal communication. So here the non-verbal, as the name itself indicates, it is without using words. So any communication that is done without using words can be called as non-verbal communication. Non-verbal communication elements includes facial expressions, gestures, body language, posture, etc. Some of the critical aspects or types of non-verbal communication includes sign language, body language and paralanguage. So now let us move on to the next topic, that is one of the aspect of non-verbal communication, which is a body language, which is also called as kinesics. So here the body language is also known as kinesics. It refers to the movements, gestures, posture and facial expressions that individuals use to communicate without words. So whatever the elements or gestures or postures, any kind of language using the movements of the body that is used for communication without using words can be called as the body language, which is a non-verbal form of communication. And this form of communication is a powerful tool that can express a person's feelings, attitude and intentions. Here, even the body language can be utilized for expressing the emotions, feelings and intentions of a person. So here, understanding body language is essential for effective business communication, as it can influence how a message is perceived. So it really matters a lot. It's not just the content that you speak, but also sometimes it's your appearance or it's your expression or the way you sit, the way you stand, or the way you carry yourself. It all indicates your confidence or your understanding level. So the body language consists of all kinds of postures, sitting postures or standing postures, facial expressions, gestures and hand movements, etc. Now let us discuss more about the elements of body language. So elements of body language includes facial expressions, eye contact, gestures, posture, movement and touch. So first and foremost we have is facial expressions. So the human face is very expressive and it can convey a wide variety of emotions including happiness, anger, confusion, etc. For example, a smile can indicate happiness or friendliness, whereas a frown can indicate disrespect or disagreement. Next we have is eye contact. Even your eye contact can decode something or it can send a meaning to the receiver, where maintaining proper eye contact is crucial for every business communication. Here a proper eye contact with the audience can make a difference. It shows your attentiveness, confidence and interest, while avoiding eye contacts indicates dishonesty or feeling of shyness, etc. Next we have is gestures. So here the gestures may include hand movements, head nods and also some other actions which support the verbal communication and makes the verbal communication more effective. Say for example, while explaining, using hand movements is also an example of gesture. And shaking hands while greeting someone indicates professionalism and respect, while crossing arms may represent disagreement or defensiveness. So next we have is posture. Posture is the way you sit, the way you stand. So here even your postures depict something. Say for example, an upright posture may indicate that you are very interested to that particular speaker, or it shows your attentiveness. While a slouching may indicate disinterest or lack of confidence. And next we have is movement. So here the movements refers to all kinds of body movements, hand movements and head movements. Say for example, when somebody is explaining, making the head movements or nodding indicates that you are listening to them and you are understanding them. And the way a person moves or shifts their body during a conversation can also indicate a message. Say some kind of nervousness can be shown through your body language. Sometimes it may show anxiety, and some of the purposeful movements can be depicted, so to show that you are confident. And next we have is touch. So in business context, even touch can also play a crucial role, where a firm handshake means a confidence and respect, and also it shows professionalism. However, the appropriateness of touch varies across cultures. And next, paralanguage. Paralanguage is also one more aspect of non-verbal communication, which includes, or it refers to, the non-verbal elements of speech that accompany verbal communication. So it's all about the elements of speech that is used while doing a spoken communication. So it includes the aspects like tone of voice, pitch, speed of speaking, volume and pauses. So even the tone of voice that you use and the pitch, whether you talk in a very high pitch voice in a very louder way, or the speed of speaking, whether like you speak fastly or whether you are speaking slowly, and the pauses and silences you give in between the talking. This also has a message to the receiver that it shows how you are feeling. It makes the verbal communication, especially a spoken communication, more effective. So here, while words convey the actual message, paralanguage adds meaning and emotions to the message, so shaping how it is interpreted. So paralanguage here is very important to have an impact on the receiver. For example, if you say an interesting story using a monotonous volume or a monotonous voice, so it doesn't make the audience to feel interested, and it won't help you to gain the attention of the audience for a longer time. So it is important to have voice modulation and changes in the pitch. So moving forward, we have some of the components of paralanguage, whereas components of paralanguage includes tone of voice, pitch, speaking speed, volume and pauses and silence. So for the first and foremost we have is tone of voice. Even the tone of voice can indicate here your emotions and attitudes. Say for example, a very warm and friendly tone from a sender of the message or a speaker may indicate that he is very approachable, whereas a harsh voice or in a harsh tone may indicate that he is very aggressive or he is angry or frustrated, etc. Next we have is pitch. So pitch here refers to the highness or lowness of the voice. Say for example, you speak in a very high pitch when there is an excitement news to be told to your friends. So when you are shouting about your success, or you might have passed a great exam, so in that times, or you want you have some excitement news to be shared, so in that time you may use the high pitch voice, whereas the lower pitch always indicates that there is some kind of seriousness or gossips. Say for example, some of the secrets or gossips are shared, or some of the serious matters are shared in a lower pitch of voice. So next we have is speaking speed. So even the speed that you speak also can send a message to the receiver, in which it changes the perception of the receiver. Say for example, your speaking speed is too fast. The receiver may find it difficult to understand. And if your speaking speed is slower, then it shows lack of interest or lack of confidence sometimes, or else sometimes the receivers or the audience may feel bored and disinterested on your communication if you are speaking too slowly, and sometimes they can feel sleepy also. So always a speaker should maintain a balanced speaking speed. Then volume. So volume here refers to the loudness and softness in your speaking. Say for example, if you are speaking too loudly, so it might be sometimes disturbing to others. and sometimes if you are speaking too in a softer way, then it might be like it might indicate that the speaker is not that confident. Speaking too loudly may come across as an aggressive. So next we have is pauses and silence. So here a speaker should know when to give a pause and when to be silent between the sentences, when to give a pause and all. For example, when you are speaking, if you know where to give a pause and silences were required, so this makes the message to be conveyed in an effective manner, and even the audience will have time to rethink and understand and clarify any kinds of doubts. So speaking on continuously, like the audience may not understand it in a proper way, or it doesn't, sometimes it may not convey the message as you were intended. So for example, you might have observed an motivational speaker or an anchor, they know when to give a pause and when to keep silence. So it depends on the content that they are expressing. So next we have is the sign language. So again, the sign language is one of the aspect of non-verbal communication. Here the sign language is a visual form of communication. That means it can be seen, and that uses hand gestures, facial expressions and body movements to convey messages. So here in sign language, the people use their hand gestures, facial expressions and body movements to convey messages. So here it is primarily used by individuals who are deaf or hard of hearing, because it is not like it's, sign language is different from body language. Body language elements are act as supportive for or to make, or these are the elements that make the verbal communication more effective, whereas sign language is not used to support the verbal communication. Rather, it is used by those people who are deaf and hard of hearing, but it can also be a valuable communication tool in noisy environment where you cannot, talk, or when you talk it is not heard. At that time, using sign language can also help people to convey the messages, or in some situations where verbal communication is not possible. So wherever the verbal communication is not possible, you can also send a message through this sign languages. For example, as you can see, this symbol indicates it like it's not okay, or this symbol indicates that is pointing to someone, or this says that it is something is nice or super, etc. Now, let us see some of the key aspects of sign language, which includes gestures, facial expressions, body movements, and cultural variation. So here the gestures are the essential part of sign language, which, the bodily movements and hand movements, these indicate some kind of phrase, words, etc. For example, a simple gesture may indicate a common word hello, and a more complex gesture may indicate a detailed idea. Then the facial expressions are as important as the gestures in sign language, as these can indicate the emotions and intent of the sender of the message to the receiver. For example, a raised eyebrow can indicate a question, whereas a smile can add warmth to the communication. Even in sign language, the body movements play a major role, because the nodding of the head, or slouching, or your posture, or tilting of the head, all this can make a big difference in the language that you communicate, or it can impact your sign language. And next we have is cultural variations. So here the usage of hand movements or gestures or facial expressions may vary according to the culture. Just like spoken languages, even the sign languages can be varied based on the regions and the cultures. Say for example, an American sign language may be different from the British sign language. So this was all about body language, paralanguage and sign language. These three are the important aspects of non-verbal communications that support the main communication of spoken communication. So here it also indicates that even without using of the words, one can communicate. So this was all about today's session. Hope you all have understood. Thank you.